This lesson is about mental health, more specifically anxiety, depression, and stress. First, just a couple words of warning and disclaimer. I am not a doctor, I'm a teacher. Neither am I a therapist or a counselor, so please don't take my advice as advice that you would take from, a professional like that. Um, if you are having these kind of issues, please see a professional. And also, some of the topics that we will talk about might be difficult for some people to deal with. And so, if you are experiencing some of these kind of problems, and if talking about some of those kind of problems might be cause you to have further mental stress, you might want to sit this one out. First of all, let's talk about anxiety. So there's regular anxiety, which everybody gets, versus anxiety disorder, which only some people have. Everybody does feel anxious sometimes. That's a normal thing and totally healthy. So, you have a big thing coming up, big test coming up, or you're meeting someone for the new time. Lots of situations where you might feel anxious. Um, Anxiety disorder is when your anxiety actually affects your life kind of long term. It almost takes over your life, and there's like physiological effects, like effects on your body. It's affecting your heart, your sleep, your concentration, your gut and stomach. All these things, like I said, it almost kind of takes over your life, and you often find yourself feeling anxious about things that other people think are pretty normal. So the kind of things that might trigger anxiety like that, I mean, there's really anything, but some examples that are common are social things. So a lot of people have kind of this social anxiety. Stress can trigger anxiety, depression, changes in life, like big life changes kind of things. Money, so especially obviously not having enough money. There's different kind of phobia, so you have a fear of some specific thing. And like I said, lots of other things, and each person has their own kind of things that have caused anxiety. The kind of symptoms that we see, again, when we're talking about these kind of mental health issues, they are all kind of interconnected, and they are very variable between different people, but some of the common ones, constant worrying about things. You feel irritable, maybe because of, some of the other symptoms are causing you to be irritated. Sometimes you have elevated heart rate or a flushed face, shaking or muscle tension, restless, you're feeling on edge, like you can never quite relax, those kind of things. So what to do if you are experiencing anxiety? You can see a doctor, and they will ask you questions and see if they can kind of diagnose it as like an anxiety disorder. And there are drugs that they can give you that will lessen the effects and symptoms of the anxiety. Another option is therapy, right? So seeing, a clinical therapist who will be able to talk to you and work out some of the things that are going on. Really, with anxiety, a lot of the things are going on inside your brain, and your brain is thinking that things are a threat when in fact they aren't. And so a therapist sometimes is able to help you kind of work through that work in your brain so that you're no longer thinking those things, which are kind of these beliefs that are not actually true. Other things that could help that you can do on your own are meditation. So there's really good guided meditations. You can find those anywhere, like YouTube or Spotify, or wherever. You can do kind of these deep breathing exercises, and just plain old exercise that helps a lot of people with anxiety and how to relax and stuff. Out of the different mental health issues, anxiety is one that I have personally experienced, and I have gone to see the doctor and used the drugs that they have, and done therapy. So if you are someone who is suffering with anxiety, feel free to come and I can kind of share my experiences with you. Panic attack. Panic attack is like a extremely intense period of anxiety, and like the physical symptoms are much more, I guess, intense. You feel like you're not able to breathe at all. You can get nausea, dizzy. Your heart is racing. So it can be really frightening because it doesn't feel like something that's going on in your brain. It feels like you are having some kind of medical emergency. So, I think it it's really hard when you're kind of in the midst of it. But yeah, these panic attacks don't last forever, and so if you keep telling yourself that it will end eventually, I think typically it's like 15 to 30 minutes kind of, and then the panic attack will generally subside. Another mental health issue that comes up a lot is depression. So symptoms of depression, things like sadness, isolation, being tired all the time, having not enough energy, low self-esteem or self-confidence, you're feeling guilty, feel empty inside, worthless, having despair. And in more severe cases, it can lead to self-harm, whether you're, cutting yourself or something like that, or even in kind of the most severe cases, kind of suicidal thoughts. You can see that there is like, some overlap between anxiety and depression, and really all these things, these kind of mental health problems, they are all really interrelated and connected. And causes, so, again, life events can cause that. If you have big changes in your family, or someone passes away or something like that, definitely can be a cause of depression. Unstable family life, if things at home are not great, obviously that makes life pretty hard. Abuse, of course. So these are experiences that are extremely, kind of traumatic, trauma itself. And it can be things from the past, or it could be things that are more recent. Things like life things, you lose your job or something like that, that often is a cause for depression. And what to do about it? Well, I mean, it's really similar, right? Yeah, see a doctor, and they'll kind of try and diagnose, what's going on. Again, there are drugs that will help. Different kinds of drugs usually than the ones with anxiety, and therapy. Again, these are things like going on in your mental inside your brain. So having the brain think differently will often help, and that's what therapists can help you do. And again, like meditation, deep breathing, exercise, those kind of things are helpful as well potentially. PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, and so this is like a very intense kind of episode that people with depression might have, or they might have this disorder, I guess. And so usually it's caused when you have been part of or see or witnessed some kind of trauma, something which is defined as something really extremely stressful or extremely frightening or extremely distressing kind of event. And the things that can happen when you do have PTSD is that you have these episodes where you have flashbacks, or it can look very much like panic attacks. You're hyper vigilant about everything, looking for warning signs that this kind of trauma that happened to you before will happen again, and other kinds of symptoms. So it's really, they first kind of diagnosed it or figured out what was happening after the I believe Iraq War in the 1990s. And so since then, it's been recognized that this happens to people not just in wartime, but in whoever is might have experienced trauma. Another kind of mental health problem is stress. So symptoms of stress are being tired, being angry, being irritable. You see people are anxious or depressed sometimes, worried. And so you can see like some of these overlaps, right? You see the same kind of words coming up again and again. And again, there can be lots of other kinds of physiological kind of symptoms. Stress can be caused by short-term things, so things like projects due and you haven't done it, or homework, you're behind on your homework, you got an interview coming up, life events, these kind of things. And usually when it's the short-term things, once that event is over, then the stress will recede and go away. But there are also like long-term things that can cause stress, things like living in poverty, things like kind of long-term illnesses, work situation or school situation that are difficult. So these are longer term causes of stress that won't necessarily go away because you're still in that situation day after day. And those kind of causes of stress can lead eventually to things like anxiety and depression as well as other kind of health problems actually. Like I said, so a short-term event, it should end after that event. Okay, and so just some general advice in terms of mental health. I would say number one, treat yourself with kindness. Like if you saw your best friend going through something, some kind of mental health distress, what would you say to them? How would you support them? And if you're going through something like that yourself, you should treat yourself the same way. You deserve the same level of support from yourself, right? And a lot of these kind of mental health problems, people, really get down on themselves, or, things don't look like it's hard to see a way out because things are so kind of dark. But yeah, just, treat yourself with kindness, and that's really good. Number two, reach out to your network of family and friends. And so there's nothing like having supportive people around you who love you. That it helps a lot. Number one, just even knowing that they're there and that they care about you can make a difference. But actually, they can do like actual things that will help you. They can listen to your problems, and like often that helps to kind of relieve some of the things. Or they can help you get through the things that you need to do, or they can help you reach out to like professionals and stuff like that. Taking time out to relax, right? So I guess like you time. So going out in nature is really nice. Outdoors, doing your hobbies or taking up a new hobby, those kind of things can help make yourself feel better. Physical health, so taking care of your physical health could help. Like I mentioned exercise before, but making sure that you're eating well and sleeping well. Because if those physical health are suffering, that will just make, your symptoms worse and worse. Things like meditation, I mentioned before, like there's some really good guided meditations on YouTube's, or there's like some phone apps that can do it. Mindfulness, so there's lots of info out there on mindfulness, and similar, I think, to meditation. There's like breathing exercises. So, breathing. I mean, when you're breathing, things like, breathing exercises, really, you're training your mind to be in the moment and just like not focus on those other things that is worrying your mind, but just kind of focusing on like the present and I guess putting those things out of mind for the time being, to try and kind of get yourself out of a cycle of, okay, I'm anxiety, okay, now I'm anxious that I have anxiety, and it kind of keeps on going in this loop sometimes. So any way that you can break out of it is good. Journaling helps some people, and writing your feelings and how you're feeling and why you're feeling it, things like that. Gratitude is a practice. I guess people have a gratitude practice where every day they think of things that they are thankful for or grateful for. And I guess focusing on the positives in your life like that can make things seem not so dark. So yeah, these are all really good, and I have done some of them. Yeah, I would suggest. Yeah. Therapy can be useful for anyone really. It's not just for people who are having a mental breakdown or having anxiety or depression, but just I know lots of just people who go to therapy as a matter of course, just to keep their mind healthy, and that's great, I think. So it can definitely help people who are having problems, in their life, and but it can help really anyone. So there should not be. I know sometimes there's like a stigma. Oh, going to a therapist, um, and people think down on that or something. But there's no reason to, because it is good for everyone, really. I think avoiding using things like drug, alcohol, other kind of substance to kind of escape the problems, because when you go down that path, that often leads to just bigger problems down the road. So try and avoid that. You get dependent on alcohol to kind of be not depressed, but then now you're like addicted to alcohol all the time. So which has its own problem. So yeah, try not to go down that path of kind of using these mind altering substances to solve those problems. Okay, and just before I end off the lesson, just want to say, if you are suffering from mental health problems, and I haven't even covered everything, there's other things, I just kind of the most common ones, but there's other things that people are suffering from. Reach out to someone. We have our school counselors are excellent. Any of your teachers will lend an ear. Um, Other adults in your life, your family. There's other adults like in the school, there's other adults in the community. Your doctors. There's kind of community groups. There is kind of helplines that you can call. If you're experiencing those kind of problems, or if someone is experiencing those kind of problems, reach out to someone. It's not, it may not solve your problem instantly, but just telling someone and talking about it can be really helpful. And if someone does reach out to you, hopefully you can be, a supportive person, and encourage them also to seek out professional help if you don't feel quite qualified to help them yourself. But everyone is qualified to be a supportive and loving family member or friend, or just another person in the world. So again, this kind of problems is common, like more common than you might think. So lots of people are suffering from these kind of things. To all of you, I guess just know that you're not alone, and so don't try not to feel alone. And yeah, that's it for this lesson, and see you in the next one.